afternoon, everyone. Hope you enjoyed listening to data and analytics leaders talk about how to make the data and analytics vision a reality. I am Swati Das, and my professional journey has been anchored around the realm of data and analytics for many years. Over my extensive two-decade career, I've consistently found great value in tapping into the knowledge of seasoned professionals, engaging with fellow experts and industry leaders has always provided me with insightful perspectives and valuable insights. I trust that you too will discover meaningful takeaways as we delve into today's breakout session, which centers around retail and services. Retail sector has gone through a lot of change over the recent years. The sector has evolved from going from a store format to an online format to mobile. It has obscured the gap between need and want by focusing on speed of delivery and personalized marketing and creating a wish to acquire more. Data acquisition and utilization has been a major force in propelling this move. The services industry, at the same time, continues to deliver intangible products and services and accomplishing tasks that prove beneficial to clients, spanning various sectors across healthcare, transportation, hospitality. In these domains, the focus extends beyond tangible goods, emphasizing the provision of valuable experiences and solutions and support to meet the diverse needs of the expectations of clientele. Data continues to play a pivotal role in the services industry as well. Here are a couple of examples, like improving occupancy and balancing between increasing rates without losing guests in the hospitality industry. Healthcare industry has been using analytics to predict outbreaks in illness and detect anomalies in scan or just take better healthcare decision. So as retail and services sector companies evolve, so does technology to meet their needs. Over the next 1 hour, we will delve into the retail and services sector and hear leaders from the area how they solve real-world problems. First, we will hear from Linda at Change Retail about creating better customer journeys through the use of data, followed by the big retailer IKEA's usage of generative AI solutions. And then from the hotel part of Svenska Massan, where fluctuations could be enormous and money or profitability can be affected very much with the predictive AI. And finally, from Google Cloud on fresh perspectives of AI. As you can hear, we have an inspiring and hopefully educating agenda planned for you for this hour. With that, I would like to invite Linda, from the founder and CEO of Change Retail, who is in the Rethink Retail Top Retail Experts 2024. Linda, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Swati. And thank you, Cap, for inviting me to start off this retail section, talking about my two favorite topics, intelligent retail and customer experience, and to explain how I think this links together. I have been working with retail for over 10 years as an advisor for brands like H&M and Primark, but also players like Farfetch and Richmond Group. And I would argue that it has never been more exciting to work in the intersection between retail and tech, but also a bit frustrating because I agree with Swati that retail is changing. And I saw it and felt it now at NRF in New York. But technology is changing even faster. And we are just grasping small part of the possibilities out there. Today, we have more information and capabilities at our fingertips than the whole generation before us. And it's really time that we utilize it. Starting with understanding the customer, helping the customer in the shopping experience. The consumer of today is like overflooded with information, products and offers. And they are taking decisions, hard decisions, every day. And the decision on what to buy for dinner shouldn't be one of them. And here we can really, truly help. We also need to understand that a one-size-fits-all retail model with separate channels doesn't work anymore. The key word for future retail is relevant. And it goes in all the dimensions. You need to be relevant as a brand with your brand values. You need to have relevant customer offers. And you need to communicate with your customer in a relevant way. A good example is what H&M have done in their concept store at Karlaplan. They saw that it was the worst performing store in Stockholm. So they did two things. They have now a relevant assortment, analyzing what the customers want to buy in that location, and also they empowered their employees to deliver best service. And the result is amazing. They've gone from red numbers to becoming fashion destination for inspiration, actually, with all green numbers. And also they see a big uplift in the e-commerce in that area. So if you go to that store, you will see that the assortment is limited. They have the kids area is only up to this level of age. You see some silk and cashmere that you only can find in the e-commerce otherwise. And you also have some H&M Home, and the jeans are from weekdays. So a relevant assortment. But we can do so much more. We can build a world around our customers, supporting the whole customer journey in a seamless, connected way. And the best way of doing that is actually to use the device the customers already are using. The phone, making the phone the best shopping companion, helping the customer when entering a store. And how to do that? Yes, it's by asking, what's the biggest problem to solve? And of course, start with finding the products that you are looking for. The ones that you already have in your e-commerce shopping space or on your digital shopping list. But you can also bring in the best out of digital customer experience into the physical world, like reviews, rich product information, offers. And a good example of that is Monkey. What Monkey wanted to do was to create that connected customer, engaged journey. So if you go in, download the Monkey app and go into a store, you will find that you scan a product and you get your personal price, actually. Because they are operating the store nowadays as they do the e-commerce, with a dynamic pricing engine underneath. So depending on what customers you are, but also how the warehouse looks and the stock availability, you will have a price, a personal price. They have also added gamifications with hidden offers and also included the social aspect. So you can upload your styles and like other styles. And this is really interesting learning because they saw an uplift in everyone that is using the app. The basket size is raising with 200%, so amazing. But the big value for Monkey was not really the customer satisfaction. It was the data they could collect. The data that tells you about your customer, what products resonate with each customer, but also how the products fits together. So really interesting journey. So if we go back and see what customers like in a customer experience, it's speed and convenience, and the digital is playing a great role here. But then we have the knowledgeable, friendly service. And I would argue that the store employees are the most underutilized resource of retail today. And we really can do a lot with digital here as well. Farfetch is doing a great thing with their flagship store Browns, where they give the store employee a clienteling app where they can identify their loyal customers just through a QR code. And they will get all the styles of that customer, the purchase they have done recently, but also their searches before they come into a store. Really great knowledge if you want to serve a customer in the best way. Also, Lindex have recognized the value of empowering their employees. So, and now with the new generative AI, you have a lot of options. So what Lindex have been doing is to give a Copilot, a Microsoft Copilot, to all their employees to access the company data just by asking. All the company's data, the product data and everything on internet. So the time for asking around, searching the intranet, but also actually the e-com to get answers on that questions, now they can just go to Teams and ask the questions, and they will get the answer. This is information at your fingertips, and this is really cool. So I will end up where I started, to talk about how intelligent retail and customer experience fits together. Because if future retail is relevant, we need more data. Not only the data from e-commerce and POS system, we need to understand what's happening in the stores. So I would say that it is time to recognize the value of creating a feedback loop internally. To understand that a digital customer experience, it's not only about delivering a personal customer journey and shopping experience, it's also a data collector, collecting observational data, understanding who the customers are, what they like, what they're searching for, but also how the products works together. And if we can utilize this data, because this data is gold, if we can feed that into the operational side and our business processes like supply chain, assortment planning, procurement, or marketing for that matter, and all the way out to the store employees and the customer service, touching the customer again, we can truly deliver extraordinary customer experience and become more efficient. Because more data means more understanding, and it enables retailer to be relevant, but also to act faster and smarter. But this demands a great thinking, and you need to understand that this is not only about having a lot of different AI solutions. This is about having a platform and connect everyone to that intelligence. Making all the decision in different parts of the company with the customer at the center. But this is what we have to do if we want to create that loyalty and make today's and tomorrow's customer happy. So, with that, I want to say thank you.
Thank you for the insights, Linda. But in terms of the digitization journey, what do you think would be the first step in the digitization journey of a customer?
Yeah, the first, I would say it's two. So first, we need to understand what's the problem to solve. So really thinking about who is the customer and how can we help them? Because it will differ depending on which brand you are. But then it is of course the data. And what data do we have? Where is it? In which systems? Because it's siloed. And how can we grasp it? And which data do we not have? And how can we collect that?
Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.
Now, moving from digitization to how generative AI is being used at IKEA. Let's move to Prajnajit Mahanti from IKEA, who is a leader in the data and analytics space in working at IKEA specifically on generative AI. Welcome, Prajnajit.
Thank you for the generous introduction. Friends and colleagues, it gives me immense pleasure to talk to you today on one of the most powerful innovations in the technology space in our era, and we all are witnessing it. And I'm talking about generative AI. But before that, let's start about artificial intelligence, or the traditional intelligence that we all are surrounded by. So we are so used to this AI and the applications of AI that sometimes also we think of what is beyond that. And just recently, we were really, faced with some of the interesting applications, for example, ChatGPT. And suddenly it becomes the talk of the town. It becomes the buzz of the town. So, and so on, and there is Microsoft came up with Microsoft Bing with AI search, Copilot, Google Bird, and there is a list of applications. For the techies in us, we call that large language models. But today we will keep the discussions at the generative AI level. So why there is so much of buzz around generative AI? Why people think that it has gotten a lot of potential to really impact our day-to-day lives? So we are going to delve into that. So in the words of some of the industry stalwarts, after the era of internet, after the evolution of internet, this is probably the most important innovation in technology. And probably it has gotten the potential to impact our day-to-day lives. It's too early to say, but let's think about what are the different applications, what are the different use cases that it can impact our businesses, our lives. So the technology behind that is the generative AI is something that is, the name says so. Why it's called generative? Because it has the power to generate something fresh, right? So this generative AI and how exactly it is different from the artificial intelligence, or if I may call it as the traditional artificial intelligence or the traditional AI. So in simple terms, generative AI is nothing but an subject or a part of artificial intelligence that has the potential to generate fresh and new content. It can be an image, it can be an audio or a video, or it can be a text. So what makes this so exciting and really revolutionary is that its uncanny ability to really create something fresh, not on something that it has been trained on, like that of the generative AI. And that's why the traditional AI is something that we call it as a rule-based and it's task-oriented. It has a predictable outcome with a probabilistic nature. But whereas the generative AI, that's creative, that's flexible, and it has this uncanny ability to give the outcomes which cannot be really predicted sometimes. So as I mentioned, AI is already in our everyday life, but generative AI is something that is predicted, that is thought of, would be part of our day-to-day life going forward. And that is why many people are coming up with a lot of use cases that can really impact our day-to-day lives. And that makes it really, really so special. So think of generative AI as an AI assistant, that can you can just order, hey, I need something for a sales pitch. It can create you a sales pitch for the sales manager. For example, if you are a poet, it can create a poem for you. For the coder, for the developer world, it can create a code for you to really program in a new language. So this is the power of generative AI. So think of it, generative AI, as somebody that you have in your hand. You just name it, and you try to be as much as innovative that you can, and it can generate content for you, which it has not been trained on. And that makes it so really so special about it. So talking about generative AI, so now let's a little bit delve into what exactly we do in IKEA. So AI or generative AI, the IKEA way is basically as simple as that is the responsible and ethical AI. And that is all about using the data and algorithm in a responsible and beneficial way for the many people in our planet. So whether it's AI or it's a generative AI, we do in a very responsible and ethical way. That is the technology for us in IKEA. And for that, we do have our digital ethics policy. That was created by the group Digital way back in June 2022. And we have defined our digital policies on certain aspects, or we call this our standpoints. There are around 7 standpoints. I'm not going to delve into that today. But in principle, for all our standpoint, the idea is pretty simple, and that is to continuously learn with all humbleness and respect, and always put people first in our algorithmic decisions, and decision making by human-centric approach. So this is something that we practice day in and day out in IKEA. And for that, we have clearly defined our don'ts and do's, and we are really committed for that. So talking about the practice that we have it in IKEA, and then moving on to some of the exciting and yeah, really fascinating use cases that we feel that can really impact our customers and coworker, because they are our two important parameters, two our important pillars of our strength. So we already have identified and categorized our area of focus in this particular space. This is too early to say the impact, but still we are testing the water. And as everybody knows, we have a culture in IKEA to experiment a lot, and we do not really shy away from failing, right? So I'm glad that there are some super interesting use cases that we already have started working on, and we already have started doing pilots in different markets. One of the first one is basically the coworker co-pilot, which we have rolled out in many markets and including Sweden. And we have seen that it is generating immense interest among our coworker. It's augmenting their potential in our day-to-day lives. So we will see, we'll see in coming days and weeks how exactly it's going to really help us. The other one I'm going to talk about is also the high-quality content creations for marketing and product design. We have a lot of creative minds in IKEA. And so with the help of generative AI, we are going to really augment to their creativity by creating some content, be it text, be it images and videos. So this is going to help in targeting marketing. It's also going to help in focusing, making the content rich, and also helping in the reusability part of it. So this is where also we see generative AI can make a lot of difference, can make our coworker really more productive, and to help them to augment to their creativity. The other one which I'm really excited about personally, and that is the IKEA GPT, or this is a GPT plugin on top of the Chat GPT. So this is something we have very recently rolled out in the US market, and we are really expecting that it's going to really help our customer to visualize their need in a much better way with the power of ChatGPT. So these are some of the areas, and also there are some other areas that really we have identified. We have in fact started piloting in some of the other markets, but as I mentioned earlier, so it's too early to say or look into the impact of it. But still, we are really hopeful that with the help of generative AI, the power of generative AI, it can really support us to augment the efficiency of our coworker and to boost the experience of our customers. So friends, if you ask me one thing, I would really want you to really take with you, and that is this space is really innovating fast. So we need to be really flexible and really agile in our approach, because what is an opportunity today may not be an opportunity tomorrow. So we need to really be more creative, try to really see how, with the power of generation of new content, we can be utilizing it or creating or coming up with some use cases for our business, for our customers. That is where the true potential of the generative AI will be realized. I understand that it's not that simple. We all really need to know that it's something also to deal with the creativity. And also, I have one more thing that I would like you to please take along with you is the amount of data, vast amount of data that is used for training of these kind of models. And this large language model, it has sometimes more than hundreds of billions of parameters. So think about from a sustainability perspective also. So we need to be creative there as well. So I think that's a topic for another day. So with this, I hope that this talk is a little bit useful to you in some way. And I would be really keen to get your thoughts, your reflection. You can reach out to me to my LinkedIn handle. And before I end, I really want to thank the team Capgemini for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. And more importantly, the audience. I really want to thank you for your attention and looking forward to your valuable feedback, and to your questions and clarifications. So stay curious, stay more generative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prajnajit. That was insightful indeed. Now, moving from generative AI that is being adopted in a big way now, let's move to Ole from Svenska Masan. Svenska Masan is a company that was formed in 1918 and is one of the biggest exhibition centers in whole of Sweden. Over to you, Ole, to hear more about how predictive analytics is being used to increase business at Svenska Masan.
Thank you, Swati. Hello, my name is Ole Ronningberg, as Swati said. I'm a project manager and business analyst here at the Swedish Exhibition Center and the Gothia Towers Hotel in Gothenburg. Today I want to talk with you about how to go beyond the buzz and hype of AI and what it takes to not just delivering exciting proof of concept, but how to actually leverage AI to create real and concrete business value. I will share my lessons learned from one specific project that made me realize what is needed to create the value beyond just data and model performance. So I just want to start with highlighting these now famous figures that shows that AI projects are obviously not a walk in the park. 87% of all AI projects never reach production. And even the project that reach production, still we have 70% of companies that reports no or minimal impact from AI. So I will come back to this, why even successful models in production fails to deliver or making an actual impact in the business. So this project I'm going to talk about was about predicting hotel room cancellations. So just to give you a brief overview of the project plan, you can say it was grouped in 3 parts. The first part before the project with the business case, securing stakeholder support and engagement, and also competence in the product team. The second part was the actual development of the project, where we made a proof of concept focusing on data, quality, quantity, access, all you need to work with these models. And then some project iterations where we focused on the model performance and making the model ready for production. And then third part, back to engaging business stakeholders again, with business iteration, where we focused a lot on design and interpretability and getting the approval from the stakeholders in this project. Then we went on to deployment and education of user, and we hope to see value created. So I will describe the project briefly, first from a business case perspective. So the business case in this project highlighted the fact that 90 days each year, Gothia Towers Hotel had above 95% occupancy, but below 100%. And it's a big hotel. It's Scandinavia's biggest hotel in one place with 1,200 rooms. So we have roughly around 300 cancellations each days. And a lot of factors affecting the risk of the cancellations. We see some booking features here to the right on the slide, where we put a lot of things like room type, even weather forecasts, how many days they're staying, numbers of guests, kids, etc., into the model. And obviously too many factors for 1,200 individual room each day for a human to process. So the business case highlighted the fact that using AI to predict cancellation and overbook holds an enormous potential of some million SEK each year. So in the product iterations, we worked first with proof of concept to ensure the data quality, access, and all of that. And then the project iterations concluded that this model, we work with the XGBoost model for the interested in the models. This model could, with good accuracy, predict cancellations, not an individual booking if it's going to be cancelled or not, but on an aggregated level, it had very good accuracy, as you see in this image, with the accuracy, with the prediction and the actual over time. So after the project concluded, we could make this with good accuracy. The iterations with the business stakeholders focus a lot on the design and the interpretability. And the end product was this graph that we put in our BI tool with adjustable risk level slider. So in this specific example, the model predicts around 200 rooms as the best guess. But what we learned when working together with the business users is that this is maybe not the most interesting figure. The most interesting figure is how sure can we be that it's not below a certain level. So the red points in this graph is from a slider where we say that with 95% accuracy, we can say that it will not be below this level of about 160 rooms. This is very important because you don't want to take the risk to overbook and then stand there with not enough hotel rooms when the guests arrives. So, with the stakeholders on board, the model performs. We have a visualization for them to use in our BI platform. We should expect some value being created and occupancy, really high occupancy levels be more prevalent. But when we followed this up some month later, this was not actually what we saw. We saw no improvement in the KPIs we set up. And as a project manager, I would be happy to say that it was a success, but we could conclude after some months that we didn't really create some real business value. We were among the 70% that didn't really create value, even though we had a good model and everything. So we didn't give up. Instead, to answer the question of why we didn't create value, we followed the decision-making process, and we found 3 aspects that hindered value creation. And I call these key value creators. And after working together with the business, with both the trust and business process and cultural alignment, we started to see and are now seeing the KPIs improving in the way that we aimed for in the business case. So, what really are these key value creators in AI projects? I will exemplify with our case. So for the business process part, no business process in today's business are adapted to incorporate predictive insights. So users and the business as a whole needs help to reimagine these processes affected by what we now know from predictive models. And we worked a lot with the business in adapting the processes. And one very concrete example is that we had to change the hotel reservation system to always have a certain amount of rooms more available than what's actually available at the hotel, so to say. So it's become a more efficient process than going into each individual date and open up rooms. The cultural alignment part is super important. Already from the beginning to when you develop an AI model, to ensure that the decision from this model doesn't go against the core values of the company. In our case, we after deploying the model, we went around the business and we understood that there are still some beliefs that maybe we shouldn't fully work by the suggestions from this model. So we went back to the top management and secured an open support. Was outspoken that we support working in this way. But even with this support, we need also clear policies and responsibility to really secure user adoption. And this also goes into the business process again, where we saw that 3 different departments could be in different time periods could be responsible for doing the overbooking. And if it's a Saturday and our revenue department didn't work, maybe it could be up to a person standing in the reception to open up for overbooking. And then this person shouldn't be responsibility for if things go wrong, because they should know that this is a policy we have as a company, and we trust the predictive models to suggest these decisions, and just to follow these decisions should be the process. And then we have the alignment with the values for the company. And both of these, of course, also need trust in the model. It's absolutely essential to trust the model to affect this change we want to see in the decision-making process. And trust, it demands full transparency of the model, and not just full transparency, also education to learn, to understand. And we also have to bear with us that it takes time. It takes time to see that. I have been sitting with a lot of users to explain that maybe they don't believe that 250 rooms will be cancelled until next Saturday. So then we have to go back to look what has the model said before, and how has actual fallen out, and how did exactly the same date look the other year. And this is maybe data most of the people in this decision-making process haven't been working with at all. So they need to learn to themselves to trust the model. So I think in all AI projects, and now the AI projects I've been working with after this example, we incorporate this from the start to really work with the business process to help the users even before we start developing. How can we change the business process? Does this decisions align with our culture and values? And how can what users are key to building trust in the model? So that's my key takeaways from how to really create values in AI project beyond just data and model performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ole. I was wondering, are there any learnings from the current project that you've infused in other projects within Svenska Massan?
Yeah, definitely. I would say all these 3 key value creators we're working with in now every AI project that we take upon us, and we're now working with predicting restaurant revenue and guests for dinner and lunch, and automate the forecasting process and the semi-automating staff planning. And this is 2 very old business processes, staff planning and forecasting, that needs to be adapted. So we have been taking help with the business users in this case, even before starting developing actually. How can we, just assuming this model will perform, just assuming this, how would we change our way of working? So that's definitely key, I think, to not just have a good model in the end, but also get the value all the way through, so to say.
Thank you so much. This was really insightful, and we really love the experience that the project that we are talking about was also helping other projects come into life. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you, Swati.
It is really insightful to hear how your current project is also being influenced by the learnings from your previous projects. Really insightful indeed. And it's great to hear about how you're using historical data to make predictive analytics that can help the company take sharper decisions. Interesting indeed. But what if that model was smaller? What if the data set wasn't that large? You did not have access to the data. Let's hear Alexander's views on the same. Alexander is coming to us from Google, where he has worked with multiple customers on the journey of generative AI and predictive analytics. Welcome, Alexander. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you so much for having me.
The stage is yours. Please take us through.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Alexander Percival. I work at Google, specifically Google Cloud and our applied AI organization, particularly with partners and implementation projects around AI. One of the things that I've come to learn is that when you're working with emerging technologies, there are many that are looking to implement these technologies and get value from them as quickly as possible. However, it is important to understand that when new technologies emerge, you still need to follow a little bit of process and you still need to have a little bit of data. But how much? Let's start by just making sure that everyone understands that we are really in a technological evolution. The thing is that when you were working with predictive AI, like we heard Ole talking about before, the data set needed to be somewhat large and you needed to have access to more data. However, we are now in a situation where we have access to new kinds of technologies such as generative AI and large language models, and they are going to rapidly change how we develop new AI solutions. You probably heard the word large language models many times before, LLMs. They are all of the buzz, and you've probably interacted with solutions such as ChatGPT or Bard from Google Cloud, or maybe the solutions from Snapchat. And all of these are powered by these so-called large language models. And it's important to understand what they can do for us. So first of all, large language models have been trained on a really, really large data set, meaning that they have the ability to converse with us. They have the ability to not just inference, how do I say, a value, such as 5, 10, or yes or no, or tell us if line go up, line go down. That is what predictive AI has been doing for us for a long time. These models can actually give us large corpuses of text. They can give us novels. They can give us so many things, and they are intriguing to interact with because they are almost human-like. But they're not just for chatbots. They are the same kind of technologies that power search engines, the same kind of technology that powers generation of images, videos, and it's the same kind of technology that powers synthesis. And they are one of the core features of the Google search engine today. Now, retail has many different areas where generative AI can be applied. And we've done multiple different use cases across the customer industry. But there are some use cases that we've started with that we have very good success with. The first is the creative assistance, such as creating images, creating copy, creating marketing materials. Because Google has been a trusted partner for CMOs for many, many years when it comes to digital marketing. And we're also trusted to help with search engines and to do recommendation engines, because at the end of the day, Google is a company that's very good at using data, and that's why we've also been able to do a lot of things together with our customers on large language models. But there are other things that we can do as well. So what I want to do is give you examples of when this technology failed to produce the results that we needed, and when the technology managed to produce results that we actually wanted, and what we did differently. So, the thing with large language models is that you've probably seen that there are very, very large language models available, both from Google and from other companies like OpenAI. But here's the thing, that if you use these very, very large models for generic tasks and for every single task, you are using something that has more information that it needs and information that is not pertinent to the specific task that you're trying to actually achieve. And what we learned is that when using these very, very large models, you have problems with both scalability, performance, and inferencing. And there are many ways to get around this. But here's the thing. We noticed that when you go smaller, things happen. So Google quickly realized that what we need to do is we need to take these larger models and we need to split them up into specific models, such as models for medical, for technology, for retail, or for security, or for other kinds of areas. And making sure that the data that those are trained on and the use cases that those are trained on are distilled for those particular use cases. Because what that then happens is that your solution, it doesn't know how to do brain surgery on an otter. It doesn't need to know that because that's not pertinent to what you are trying to let it do. So going smaller helps with both the cost, the speed, and the scalability. So Google believes that if you are going to have a specific task being taken care of by these so-called large language models, you need to look at what kind of data and example that you feed it with and what size the model actually has. And Google has over 100 models in its so-called model garden that gives you the ability to use multiple different models for multiple different use cases, and evaluation services that gives you the ability to evaluate the performance of those different models. So we have a foundation of multiple different models that are first party to Google, all the way from the smallest model, Gecko, that can run on phones, to the biggest model called Unicorns that needs to run on top of data centers, and everything in between. But like I said, bigger is not always better. Let me give you an example of something that we did in our team at Google. We needed to do contracting analysis together with our partners, and we needed to evaluate whether the contracts had the needed information and whether the information inside of the contracts was up to the template that we wanted to use and had the right, the right specifics inside of it. And we started using the biggest model, and it was slow, and we got some very strange results. So we went down to a model that was 10 times smaller than the largest model and got much faster results and much better results. We gave it 50 examples of what a good contract looks like and what we want to have inside of that contract, and 6 examples of bad ones. And the accuracy of the model was 96%. Now, that's not good enough. We want it to be much, much higher, but that was after 48 hours of work. So it was very interesting to see what we can do with these specific models that had been distilled. Basically, we asked Unicorn to train Bison. What we then learned when we went into the customer projects was that if these models did not have access to customer-specific data that was domain-specific, and it was not written in a way for an end user to understand, the model would make up and hallucinate based on the information that it had itself. And that's also part of the larger model. It has a lot of information that isn't necessary, and it tries to give you a good answer, even though it might not be the right answer. So hallucinations was a big problem for us. We also noticed that we needed a framework together with our partners to make sure that we had all the way from ideation to production, and we'll talk about that shortly. We also noticed that models that did not have a feedback system, where we could put a human in the loop that could do a thumbs up or thumbs down, or basically give good examples of what good looks like and what bad looks like, also had a huge impact on the performance of the model. And generic large models were one of the most biggest offender because they were the ones hallucinating. So the more distilled they were, the better they were. But we also noticed that, hold on a minute, the model is just part of what we're doing. We're using the model, that's the engine of the car. But the car is built on a platform, and it's the same thing here, if you read the analogy. You need a platform with evaluation services that can evaluate the performance of your model based on the metrics that you have set up, and you need a grounding service that is trained on index data, basically a small model that is a search engine that can contradict the responses that comes from the large model and make sure that the model doesn't hallucinate. And that's what we've built into the platform. So the search and grounding feature that's built into Vertex AI that we have is fantastic because it gives you the ability to build your own custom search experiences and grounding services that gives you the ability to make sure that the responses that you get back is grounded in actual factual data that exists, that it's not made up. And the same kind of technology can be used to build multimodal recommendations and multimodal search engine, such as e-commerce websites where you can ask, I'd like to buy a dress for this formal occasion. This is the things that I like. And it can give you examples of those kinds of dresses based on what you've put in. So rather than you giving a keywords, you give it an intent. And it's very, very good at understanding intent, because the model looks at things in many, many more dimensions than what a predictive model might do. So, what we've done together with Capgemini is we've come up with a, how do I say, a jumpstart, which is basically a workshop where we can start from ideation, and within 2 weeks, we can get you to production, or POC, and quickly into production, based on the use cases that is most important to you as a customer. We're going to be using everything that is available in the platform, such as the grounding services, to make sure that we don't get the hallucinations. We're going to make sure that we use the model garden, to make sure that we use the full set of models that are available, whether those be open source, third party, or first party, to make sure that you have options and choice. And at the end of the day, we'll give you a result together with Capgemini that you can evaluate and hopefully put into production together with us. Thank you so much for spending the time together with me today.
Thank you, Alexander. It was very insightful indeed, and enlightening to know that there are so many reasons for the failure of a model or the success of a model. Could you delve a little bit into some of the use cases that have been successful and some that have been deemed as failures?
Yes, absolutely. I think let's start with the failures. Early on, people started using ChatGPT and Bard, which were fantastic things that you could put in anything and you'd get something back. You can chat about everything. So a lot of customers started by building chatbots, particularly to help customers solve problems or solve issues. What they wanted to do was the model was supposed to give step-by-step instructions on how to solve something based on customer knowledge-based articles. What we saw was that many times these articles were not written for the end user. They were written for a person that was working inside of the help desk environment, which meant that the model had a hard time producing a result that the end user could understand. Basically, the model didn't have good examples of what an end user interaction meant, and those were simply deemed to fail, because the examples is everything in these cases. The success of those implementations were when you were using knowledge bases that had written articles that were for the end users, and when you started putting the customer service agents in the loop, and they would do the thumbs up or thumbs down on the answers and help the model understand what was good and what was bad. And if you do that with a few agents for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, the accuracy of the model will go up dramatically. So those are the 2 examples I'll bring.
Why do you think it is so important to have humans in the loop when we are talking generative AI or any kind of AI for that matter?
So that's a great question. Humans have learned over time, and their experiences have formed by doing, how do I say, making mistakes. Computers are trained on data and they're looking at technical documentation, but humans are filled with examples. And what large language models and generative AI really needs are these examples. So when you put a human in the loop and use what we call real-life human feedback, which is the thumbs up and thumbs down, you can add nuances to the model that the model can simply not find in documentation, because humans do not document everything. They document some of it, but they only document the parts that they think are needed. But when a use case arrives, or when a question comes up, or when a situation emerges, having a human in that loop that can help explain why something is important, the weight of that importance is going to dramatically increase the performance of the model. I'll give you an example. You can think of the model as a child. Think of it as Sheldon. It is very knowledgeable, but doesn't have a lot of experience. So having someone come in with that experience and bringing that nuance makes the factual information just easier for the human to understand.
Thank you so much. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting analogy to show a child as an AI. But the child also needs a platform to enhance itself. So does AI, as you said. Could you please elaborate a little bit on why platform is so necessary?
Absolutely. We've been focusing on the model for a long time, and we've all been focusing on the larger models because the large models can do a lot of different things. But like I said, the model needs to be able to interact with other systems. It needs to be interact with other data sources. It needs to be able to interact with other models. And if you don't put that model on top of a platform where you can switch the model, you can evaluate the model, you can ground the model in your own data, then you're going to have to create that platform yourself. And we're seeing a lot of customers experimenting with having multiple models interacting with each other, but they're doing that by, how do I say, rolling their own platform. That's why it's so important. And you can think of the analogy like a car, like I talked about before. The model is the engine, and the engine might be the most important part. But you also need everything else in the car, such as the turn signal, such as the windshield wipers. Because if you don't have all of those things, you're going to be able to get from point A to B, but you're not going to have the things that are going to make the ride smooth or safe. And that's why don't pick a model, pick a platform, and on top of that platform, make sure you have the choice of swapping the models. Because I can tell you right now, in 6 months, there's going to be one model that is great at one thing, and then there's going to be another model that is great in one thing. And if you have situated on a model and not on the platform, you're not going to be able to do the engine swap.
Thank you so much. That was extremely insightful indeed. I trust the insights gained from the diverse sessions that we have had demonstrated the potential of AI in enhancing both businesses or business operations, customer experiences across retail and services sectors. A key personal insight gained in this, substantial is the substantial value driven from engaging in discussions with peers and industry professionals to explore strategies for initiating or progressing through the stages of one's own data-driven journey. This is the end of this breakout, but there is more to follow. Do not miss out the summary from with the moderators of today's event, Rosa Santi and Thomas Fan. Join the main session. Back to the studio. Thank you.